Well, hello and welcome to Eco Insights. My name is Kathy Macbeth and I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing at EcoEngineers. And joining me today is Lindsay Nielsen, Joe Cooney, Karen Jones, Natasha Bielstein, Jim Ram, and Gabe Miranda. It's Thursday, June 25th, 2020, and today we're checking in on the clean energy economy. EcoEngineers has a unique line of sight or insight into market conditions, drivers, and trends. We see projects from concept to commissioning and ongoing compliance through our 360 approach to building out a clean energy economy. Let's take the pulse of what's happening in the market today with our eco experts. Who wants to chime in first with what they're seeing in the marketplace?
Okay, good morning, everyone. So let's see here. We've got a lot to talk about, and I know we haven't really talked about this topic yet internally, but last week, we got notice that EPA is considering 52 petitions for retroactive small refinery exemptions.
Yeah, wow.
Wow. You know, this was the drama around these small refinery exemptions has been going on for the past several years and certainly has a huge impact on the RIN markets, on the RFS program as a whole, and you know, the health of that program and the health of our clients and producers. So this is really an interesting development that we should all be following. They're being kind of lovingly referred to as what they're called gap filings.
What's a gap filing?
Right. So if you ever hear the term being thrown around in your conversations about gap filings, people are making reference to these 52 small refinery exemptions that are retroactive. So we're talking about exemptions for the years 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. This came out of the 10th Circuit lawsuit for EPA. EPA and the courts decided that, you know, really small refinery exemptions, the ones that have been filed, as a company, they shouldn't be granted if you haven't filed the entire time. So let's say you filed in 2011 for a small refinery exemption, it was granted at that time, but then you didn't file at all in the subsequent years until, let's say, last year. You submitted a SRE petition and EPA approved it. So the courts were saying, no, EPA, you know, in order to accept those petitions, we want to see that refinery has had a SRE every single year leading up to the current year. So what some refineries did is that they went back and they filed to make up all the years that they didn't file previously in, which is really interesting. So we'll see. We'll have to wait and see how this drama unfolds, how you know, DOE and EPA are going to review these petitions. They are being tracked on the EPA website. So we'll be able to follow how many of them in what years and kind of see how this all shakes out. Of course, with this news that came out last week, we did see some dip in the RIN markets. And so that's always a concern too, as far as, you know, how does this news impact the RIN markets and the RIN prices that are already, you know, perhaps struggling in some ways. So, you know, I'm not going to predict one way or the other. Is EPA and DOE, are they going to approve these petitions? Are they not? But, you know, certainly, you know, it is a concern, and I would imagine that there are some organizations who are considering taking further action, certainly. So we'll just have to see.
All right, great. Thanks for that market update. We'll have to keep watching what's going on and report on that at a later date. Who'd like to share their insight for today? Who's up next?
This is Natasha. I can go.
Natasha.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, I wanted to just shine a little light on the electricity and hydrogen pathways that we're talking more and more about at EcoEngineers with our clients, especially those currently working in renewable natural gas. So we've seen a lot of the low CI electricity, so dairy, biogas to electricity pathways come available for public comment, which is interesting. For a long time, it was just, there was one pathway, but I think the one everyone was talking about was the SMUD pathway with the notorious negative 630 CI score, which, translates to about 68 cents a kilowatt hour, which is really impressive. So we've been having more and more discussions, about how can we bring in electricity from outside of California, but within the WEC region. So that's the region, I think it's the westernmost 14 states. There's a lot of very specific deliverability requirements for that program. And I think CARB is also working to figure out, how do we work within the parameters of the LCFS, but noting that, this is also significant in the cap and trade program because they already mandate to that through their renewable energy credit, their REC program. For hydrogen, I think one of the interesting things, one of our clients, Mitsui, invested $25 million in furthering the number of stations that were built for hydrogen and first element fuels in California. So that I think is going to give an opportunity to renewable natural gas in the -50 range. I think that's going to be an exciting way to see the market grow. And I know that they're very supportive of the hydrogen market and how can they utilize renewable natural gas. And I think, thinking towards hydrogen as, in the many uses that California points to it as, I think that's probably one of the biggest ones we're seeing right now.
And if you're watching this and you'd like more information about the hydrogen pathway or how to get a hydrogen project to California, reach out to N. Bielstein at EcoEngineers.us. Thanks, Natasha.
Hey, Kathy. I just wanted to share some news and updates about the Brazilian program, RenovaBio.
Okay.
Just a couple of weeks ago, we had the first CBio transaction. CBio, for those that don't know yet, is just the name of the greenhouse gas emission reduction certificate. The initial price was very close to what we were anticipating, we were expecting, and where the first projections were based off, which was around $10. So with that number is actually key because we are able to project and estimate some values, and one of those is just how much that could add as a premium to the US ethanol exports to Brazil. And we've calculated something around 3 cents per gallon, which might be very attractive depending on the volume. But it's not only good news because there's lots of problems, and there's been some correspondence back and forth with Brazilian government because there's some really important restrictions to the ethanol program, and mostly when it comes to traceability. The Brazilian program demands that you trace back lots of information to the farm level. And if you consider that lots of the ethanol plants here get their corn from, grain elevators, they just consolidate lots of different loads from different places in the same silos. And once you do that, you cannot trace back to which farm that specific corn came from. So this is a major issue that this correspondence is trying to overcome. So there's just what's going on right now. There's this ongoing discussion. We know what is the initial price of the CBIOs. So yeah, there's something to be looking for throughout the rest of the year and see how we can, participate in this in these conversations. We've been talking to Grove Energy, U.S. Grain Council has been participating in these correspondences as well. Some more updates to come. Maybe over the next episode, we will have some new interesting news.
Okay, well, that's a great update on RenovaBio. And Gabe, I know you've been focused on that program and are developing your, knowledge around the RenovaBio regulations. And sounds like there's some additional preparation and planning required for ethanol producers in the U.S. who are looking to go to that market. And if you want more information, reach out to Gabe at gmiranda@ecoengineers.us. You can talk about RenovaBio all day and is fluent in Portuguese as well. Thanks, Gabe.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the hardships in the ethanol market for the last quarter. I think everybody's well aware of that, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the response and the hope and the promise. So we're seeing that response in 3 ways. The first way is through renewable natural gas. It's something that ethanol plants have been using to lower their carbon intensity score and improve their place in the market. And we're having a lot of discussions about how to tie ethanol with renewable natural gas production and tie the agricultural economy together as far as swine production, dairy production, and beef cattle. And so that has been a really interesting thing that has come out of this hardship, is those things are becoming more and more and more real because of the LCFS markets, and it offers ethanol producers ways to really bring more economic value to their areas. So that's a really fantastic demonstration of someplace where hardship can actually cause innovation. Another area of innovation that is really exciting is carbon capture and sequestration. Ethanol Producer Magazine this month, they see a vision where 60% of the ethanol production could be tied to carbon capture and sequestration economically.
Wow, that's a big number.
Yeah, these two kind of areas, you start talking about taking a large part of ethanol below 50% greenhouse gas reduction. The third area that I'd like to visit about is the agricultural farm practices. So farm practices have been getting better, and many of the current programs don't recognize the improvements in farm practices. One of the products that's coming off the farm is carbon capture into the soil. And so Zhao and Lei and I have been having many conversations with how to measure this, how to create new carbon markets, whether they're tied into transportation markets or tied into voluntary markets. We've had a recent tough market in ethanol, but I am really impressed with the determination of ethanol producers to, for instance, make hand sanitizer or go into these new areas of renewable natural gas, carbon capture, and agricultural practices, and be a long-term part of the economy and a part of this carbon solution.
Wow, that's awesome. Jim, it sounds like you're really connecting a lot of dots there across the whole value chain in the biofuel space to get us to a low carbon economy or a clean energy economy. And if you all want more information about how to connect those dots with what you're doing, please reach out to jram at EcoEngineers.us. Joe, I think you're up.
I think that's it. I want to piggyback a little bit about what Jim said about voluntary markets. What we're seeing, and probably coming a lot quicker than you might expect, the voluntary markets and institutions and such as hospitals and universities and so on, starting to learn the difference between going green and becoming carbon neutral. And as they learn that and they start focusing more and more on the lower CI score fuels, lower CI score energy. And I think there's going to be an opportunity in the not too distant future for the products that we see go into the transportation sector have an opportunity to get into a newer market, being the other industry sectors and institutional sectors like that. We are especially seeing that in the university sector, where they're starting to learn what it means to be carbon neutral as opposed to just going green. And I think there's going to be an opportunity in the not too distant future for our fuels to start approaching and attacking that sector.
Wow, that's a good insight. I mean, green doesn't always mean or equal low carbon, does it, Joe? So if you want to know more about carbon neutrality and how EcoEngineers can help you with that, feel free to reach out to Jay Cooney at EcoEngineers.us. Great, thanks so much. I also failed to give a shout out to Karen Jones on the RVOs and RFS regulatory update. She is indeed our internal expert at RFS expert at EcoEngineers. So if you have any questions about all things RFS, reach out to Kay Jones at EcoEngineers.us. With that, I'm going to give the last shout out to Lindsay Nielsen, our marketing coordinator extraordinaire, who's got some ideas on how you can tap into some more information from EcoEngineers.
Thanks, Kathy. Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to all of our experts at EcoEngineers, and they've really been coming together to provide the public with some great webinars and great thought leadership, which we've been sharing across all of our platforms. We have a full schedule lined up for the rest of the year in terms of webinars and articles. So to keep up to date with us, make sure to follow us on social media, check out our website, check out our blog. We're pretty much in all social media platforms.
Thanks for joining us for a look into current market conditions, drivers, and trends with the experts from EcoEngineers. Thanks, everyone. We'll give a shout out. See you later. We'll see you at the next Eco Insights episode. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.